Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the Healthy Living Scottsdale Podcast. I am your host, Coach Adam, here with morning coach extraordinaire Terra today, and Director Jolie in the house, in the studio this morning. We are going to talk about breathing and breathing techniques and importance during exercise, and kind of going to take an approach of both what's happening scientifically and then kind of how to simplify it during your workout, so you can kind of try to practice or execute some of these things that we're going to talk about today. But first, we are going to begin with our member of the week, and this week we're going with Jared Heft. Jared is an afternoon, mostly. He was actually here this morning, so it's awkward, but mostly an afternoon guy, and he is, I think, kind of chose him for this.
We're all smiling and laughing because Jared is just he's a good energy. He's always messing with the coach in a good way, just always wanting to be challenged and pushed, and yeah.
Yes, and I kind of wanted to pick him because, one, he's been super great. He travels a lot, so consistency, he's always trying to fit in his workouts when he can.
Yeah.
But a really good example of a very conscious breather. Because full disclosure, he's had a heart attack in the past, so he's something he's very aware of, and you will catch him after a heavy set or something like that. He's kind of standing over to the side with his arms crossed and just taking deep breaths, and you're kind of oh, look at Jared over there on his little rest. But I mean, he's doing it right and he's recovering. So super great energy in the gym again, as you guys said. And yeah, nice job, Jared, keeping it rolling. Okay, so breathing, do it. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week. Just kidding. So we're gonna go into scientific kind of first. What's happening in the body? Why breathing is important? So first thing that happens during exercise is your oxygen demand obviously goes up. So Terra, do you want to touch on difference between aerobic and anaerobic, just so we can clarify that before we get any deeper?
So the main difference between the two, it says it in their name: anaerobic without oxygen, aerobic with oxygen. And that's simply the type of exercise that you're doing and for the duration of that exercise.
Yep.
So strength training typically falls under that anaerobic threshold, because you're not executing essentially one lift that's going to take so much, or you're not going to use the oxygen quote that you need for that lift, as opposed to if you were outside running.
Yep.
And again, the duration, because just a good example, I'm a runner.
Do it.
So a short sprint exercise, or distance, I should say, 100, 60s, 50, something short like that, is also considered anaerobic exercise. Longer distances, as you get up to that 90 seconds, 3 minutes, as you go further that way, then you're entering that aerobic phase where more oxygen is necessary for the body to get energy.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And that's the key word, is energy. So in physiological terms, ATP is the energy source that is in aerobic exercise. ATP is produced at a faster rate and in greater numbers. So you're using oxygen during aerobic exercise basically to burn carbs and fats, and the ATP is able to keep pace with whatever exercise you're performing, which, like you said, it's usually longer duration, so it has time to basically keep pace with your demands. Anaerobic, on the other hand, is when oxygen or ATP are both kind of lacking or kind of trailing. They're following behind what the exercise is demanding that you do. So this is where lactate, people have heard lactate, is created during anaerobic exercise. And, sometimes there's, people say, lactate that can contribute to soreness and things like that. But really what we're trying to do in anaerobic exercise is clear CO2, which is also being created in your body. So in turn, that's why you're actually breathing heavier, is your body is trying to more rapidly clear the CO2, as opposed to during aerobic, where the ATP is able to keep pace, right? So, but yeah, duration and intensity are the main kind of parts about that. On the topic of CO2 clearing, another important part of that is it helps with maintaining your blood acidity level or your blood pH balance. You all heard the term pH. So that's important as far as circulation to, actual muscle groups throughout the body. We want to make sure that the muscles are getting oxygenated blood and not super dominant CO2 blood, because that's where people can run into the lightheadedness and things like that. If you're holding your breath during an exercise and there's no intake or release of any kind, that's why you go and you grab your head after a set and you're like, or deadlifting, we see like bad videos of it all the time on social media, right? People like passing out. It's like, yeah, because your CO2 spiked and you didn't clear it and you passed out. So you should probably breathe. It's a good start. Respiratory pump is another function. We're still kind of in the science-y category here. This is kind of like what we just said, pulling blood back into the heart to get oxygenated again, because unoxygenated blood going to the muscles is not going to enable you to perform at your like maximum capacity, basically. So really it's just circulation efficiency. Core stabilization, another one. Anybody want to talk about the Valsalva maneuver? Do we want to talk about it, or I can talk about it?
Go into it a little bit.
Go into it?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So when you want to do it, so a Valsalva maneuver is essentially you're trying to increase your intra-abdominal pressure, and it's the big preparatory breath that you take before you execute a repetition of something. So most common exercises that we probably see it, deadlift and squat. They demand the most core stability and strength, and basically this Valsalva maneuver is a sharp, quick inhale before your rep actually begins, and you're actually holding that breath kind of like stored in your diaphragm basically, and that's creating an air bubble that kind of just sits in your core, and it's providing both that core stability and actually helps with low back strength and bracing as well. So squat and deadlift, I don't know, do you guys use it? Oh, that's pretty much all I kind of do. Maybe sometimes RDLs, kind of it.
Yeah, I do sometime with the bench if it's heavy.
With bench, yeah. Yeah, so really whenever you feel like, people will ask, like, they get to a certain weight, like we're finishing up strength this week, they get to a weight, they're like, oh, like this is, the heaviest I've done, should I grab a weight belt? And I'm like, no, because you want to be able to practice this maneuver yourself and rely on your muscles and your core to provide the stability that you need to then perform an exercise. You don't want to rely on like an outside tool or an outside factor to do that job for you. It's pretty tough to do a Valsalva maneuver with a weight belt on, right? Because there's just, people are like pulling it in super tight. There's literally no space for you to get an air pocket to form. So I usually tell people no. I don't know if you guys have run into that on the floor, but I don't know. Yeah, I usually tell them no.
And with that, I think it's important to mention too, just in a breathing sense when you're exercising, but also with the Valsalva maneuver, making sure that you are breathing into your diaphragm. Like sometimes we were just talking about belly breathing before this, Terra, like making sure that you're not just breathing into your chest, into your shoulders. I think that's something that I've come across a lot with people, is just learning how to breathe, which sounds kind of funny to say, but it's one of those things where
a lot of people don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We're on our phones very often, we're on laptops, like our shoulders are shrugged up, we're not taking deep breaths throughout the day. And so when we're coming into the gym, that can translate into just your form isn't fully there, you're not getting the strongest reps that you could be. So it's something that I members have come up to me and they're like, oh, I see you and I think breathe, because I would go up to women especially all the time, be like, breathe. You're not breathing. Like, just let's take a deep breath in and then fully exhale, and you see everyone's shoulders shrug up. Yeah. Do you see that a lot on the floor, Terra? Yeah.
And like soon as you say breathe, everything drops.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we
open it up.
A proper posture to lift.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it's like you can tall tale sign is like they're either flushed or like super red in the face.
Yeah.
Right. But just being able to, I think what we use, don't quote me on this, but somewhere in the 60th-ish percentile of our lung capacity in an average breath. So a little over half of what you can actually store in your lungs is what we're taking in pretty much all day long. So being able to practice and actually feel what that feels like to breathe and store air in your diaphragm and not just through your chest is, I think, a pretty important skill. You know, you could practice before bed or something like that when you can actually focus on it, like Navy SEALs box breathing. Like, you know, that's a great start. 3 seconds in, 3 second hold, 3 second exhale, and 3 seconds basically empty. Right, that's a good way to kind of understand pace and how to breathe. So that's a good one. Synchronization, this is more about like what's actually happening on the floor. The Valsalva maneuver for sure, obviously during exercise, but exercise synchronization, this is more of like just pace and rhythm and actually counting and reps and things like that, you know, you were talking about this before we started, you want to talk like concentric, eccentric, like when to breathe type thing.
Yeah, let's break it down a little bit of just how, like, why does this matter? How should you be breathing when you're exercising, right? And so I think the squat is probably the easiest way to describe this, right? When we're lowering, we're in the eccentric phase of a squat. And so when we're doing that lowering down, we're thinking of like, okay, we're getting ourselves ready to stand up holding weight, whether it's a kettlebell, a barbell, whatever type of squat it is. We're inhaling on that eccentric, we're getting ourselves ready so that we can use power and exhale all the way up to the top in that concentric movement, right? So
concentric that's when you're the actual movement, the shortening of the muscle, the force production at its max, basically. So finding that pattern of eccentric inhale, concentric exhale, and then you can even, you know, like we're going to go into endurance pretty soon. It's 20 reps. So that's another way to not lose count, you know, in, out, number. So helping with rhythm and pace, definitely that's just another part of why breathing is important. And like endurance, 20 reps, you're going to feel out of breath if you're not breathing, or if you're breathing like half of the time. So, and then I think probably the last one, as far as just kind of summarizing what it can do for us is, parasympathetic nervous system activation. So you have your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is activated just through exercise alone, right? And the parasympathetic is more of a kind of like a rest, digestion kind of response to stress or exertion, kind of things like that. So being able to practice breathing and actually maybe even lower your level of what we've talked about before, rate of perceived exertion, it can quite literally reduce the stress of your workout, even though you're still executing movements and, you know, different things. You can reduce your stress or your exertion level just by breathing at the correct times and appropriately. So that would be your parasympathetic nervous system activation. Do we have anything else that we want to touch on with breathing and how it can kind of help people in the gym? We've hit a lot of points.
We've hit a lot of points. We want to get our full range of motion. We want to make sure we're breathing at the right times during your exercises. And if you're not sure, ask us.
Ask your coaches. Try to practice it. You know, it's going to not be the easiest of things, but, you know, I mean, right now we're coming out of a strength phase, which is, you know, low set and low rep number, so it's easy to keep track of. But if you can find an exercise, you know, say a simple exercise like maybe even like a bicep curl or something like that, where there's a very clear concentric and eccentric part to the exercise, those are the best opportunities to try to practice that rhythm and understanding when to breathe, and you're able to apply it to a little bit more complex lifts and even like some metabolic stuff. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there on breathing. do it or it's not going to be good for you in the end.
Do it or die.
Do it or die. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale Podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.